Hey guys, in this video I'll be comparing 2024 Texas Pro Andrew Jacked and 2024 New York Pro Nick Walker. I've heard lots of talk online about this recent version of Andrew, with many fans believing that he can defeat Nick Walker's 2024 New York Pro physique. With this being Andrew's all-time biggest, best package to date, I thought it would be interesting to see whether or not it was possible for him to take down Nick. I think that these two will probably place right next to each other if they are both at the Olympia, so it should make for a very competitive comparison. Who do you think is going to bring a better physique this year at the Olympia? Let me know down below in the comments and let's get into it. The front double is an outstanding shot for Andrew, with him presenting some of the roundest, most full muscle bellies in the current circuit. Those biceps appear bursting full and his triceps just hang so low. However, I would love to see more forearm development. Now, in my opinion, Nick does have a more refined set of arms, bringing that dry, deep separation, as well as a proportional set of forearms. That said, Nick loses a lot of ground when we look at his structure, since he has a wider waist, stubbier limbs, and a shorter frame. While height may not, inherently matter, Nick's proportions are so much more, worse, I'd say, than Andrew's, especially when comparing their lower halves. Andrew has longer femurs, which compensate for his quads not necessarily having the most incredible, pronounced sweep. It allows for his quads to look long and more filled out, as opposed to Nick's shorter femurs and genetically limited quad sweep. Overall, Andrew is twice as aesthetic when it comes to the ratios of the physique, and has comparable size and condition, and that perfect torso really ties everything together, leading to a win for Andrew. The front lat spread is definitely an Andrew Jacked pose, as I believe that he is the best in this shot currently. Look at the midsection detail and how tight it is compared to Nick, the unbeatable structure that he presents, and the lats which fill out the pose nearly perfectly. Nick might have some decent body parts, however, this pose is simply not suited for his physique. His wide waist, lackluster quads, and not impressively wide frame all do not help his case. In contrast, Andrew has so much thickness, size, and aesthetic shape, and really all the detail in the world. Just look at the differences in the chest, delts, lats, and quads, and tell me that he doesn't look like a pro versus an amateur. Andrew handily defeats Nick in my opinion, with no real explanation needed. The side chest is where things begin to get interesting, since Andrew has never really been known for the best side shots, whereas Nick normally dominates them. Although Andrew does look improved in the hamstring size, has a nice chest, and wins in the arms, he looks really awkward and has a sort of odd shape. His delts almost seem to overpower his chest and arm, making the proportions look very interesting to say the least. Now, Nick may not be as bubbly, round, or full, however, he presents a clean, very polished look. His side leg is superior to Andrew's when it comes to the fine details, and the thin skin as well. His arm, delt, and chest all look very proportional and clean, and his waist is tight and decently controlled. I'm not the biggest fan of Nick in this pose though, especially this version. However, there is no denying that he has a better balance from top to bottom, as well as a more conventional look. That said, I can understand why some of you will choose Andrew, since his chest and delts are far better than Nick's in this pose, and his overall mass is extremely impressive. The rear double is much closer than it's ever been between these two, since Andrew is at his all-time best, while Nick wasn't 100% on. You can see that their upper bodies are extremely close, with both having tremendous arms, similar back development, and very impressive shoulders. Interestingly, Nick's delts look twice as good as Andrew's in this pose, which goes to show you that proper posing and angles can make or break the shot. I'd probably give Nick an edge in the arms and shoulders, since he showcases more detail and has those freaky peaked biceps. The back is hard to judge though, since these two are nearly identical in width, development, and separation. Andrew does have an edge in the lower back definition ever so slightly, while Nick has slightly better traps. That being said, whenever it is this close, I would give the shorter guy the advantage, since proportionally it is more impressive. Lower bodies are a no-brainer though, with Nick absolutely obliterating Andrew in the hamstrings and glutes, presenting incredible conditioning all around. While the upper bodies might be close, the disparity downstairs makes this an easy win for Nick. The rear lat spread is essentially the same story as the last pose, with Nick having the same width in the lats as Andrew, along with better conditioning downstairs. What I said in the last pose still stands, since although these two have virtually the same development, separation, and width of the backs, Nick's appears more impressive due to that back being on a smaller frame. Andrew has made some gains in the hamstrings and lower back, improved his posing by a decent amount, and looks sharper than ever in the glutes. However, it's definitely not enough to defeat Nick's total package. The side tricep has definitely seen better days for these two, since Andrew's more frontal version was unbeatable, and Nick's waist has been displayed more favorably. I feel like Andrew looks very awkward in this conventional shot, since his arm isn't locked out properly and tilts at a very slight angle. While it may sound nitpicky, a slight posing change can turn an eyesore into a strong point, since I know Andrew has a phenomenal arm. He does present his midsection, chest, and delt in a very good way, and I do like his side leg. However, his flow is really not there. Nick, while a bit less aesthetic, has twice as good of a tricep, a much more refined and detailed midsection in this pose, and a thicker, finely separated side leg. His midsection could be presented better, and his tricep could be locked out further. However, all in all, I think he beats Andrew, who isn't posing at his best. I mean, here's Andrew in that frontal tricep variation, and you can see that if it was judged, he would easily win this shot. His flow is so good and statuesque in this variation. However, as it is, Nick wins the conventional pose. The ab and thigh is a ridiculous pose for Andrew, almost being as dominant as the front lat spread. His midsection and a lat combo is probably the best currently, with the midsection only being second to Hadi Chupin. Look at how wide he is upstairs, with all that width tapering down to a tiny waist with tons of separation and detail. Then it bows out to those tremendous quads with all the deep cuts, all of which flows perfectly. Nick normally presents a decent ab and thigh, and, despite his genetic shortcomings, he does look pretty decent when he's at his best. However, here his waist looks extra blocky, his quads look kind of mediocre, and his taper is almost non-existent. He does look freaky, however, that is not enough to defeat a masterpiece like Andrew in this pose. The final pose, the most muscular, is a decent shot for Andrew in this variation, while it is a top-tier pose for Nick. I like how freaky Nick looks here, showcasing the crazy delts, insane arms, deeply separated abs, and very conditioned quads. His posing shadows his weaknesses, like the wide waist being covered by the arms, and his overall wow factor is through the roof. Andrew looks good here, with this being the best variation of the most muscular for him. However, I feel as though he needs a bit more size. Now, is he detailed? Of course. However, he needs more arm size in this variation to display comparable thickness to Nick, since looking aesthetic doesn't always win this pose. I'd obviously choose Andrew if that was the case. However, Nick's density, condition, and freakiness are too much for Andrew, which leads to, Nick winning this final shot. Well guys, that's about it for this video. Now in short, I had this one ending with a win for Nick Walker, since he won both back poses, slightly won both side shots, and of course dominated the last pose, the most muscular. If you gave the side chest and the most muscular to Andrew, which is definitely a possibility, then Andrew would take this one. I just believe that Nick is a more complete bodybuilder in the mandatory shots that he wins. However, that is just my opinion. Let me know down below who you had winning. If you enjoyed, a like and sub would be awesome, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching.